President Cyril Ramaphosa today expected to lead a Human Rights Day commemoration in the Northern Cape. Ramaphosa will deliver the keynote address at the West De Aar Stadium, and Newzroom Afrika is on the ground with our reporters covering various angles of this particular story. Tumaole is in the Northern Cape, Refilwe Sibuku in the Northwest, while Mohlaoli talking to us all the way from KwaZulu-Natal. Let's start with you, Tumaole in the Northern Cape. Talk to us about the main message and perhaps even the theme of this year's Human Rights Day.
A very good morning to you, Goli. Well, certainly the main message is part of the overall theme of this particular Human Rights Day will be one of human rights and service delivery. Service delivery being one of the key issues that would speak to human rights. After all these years, over 20 years of a democratic dispensation, you still have people in the country, South Africa specifically, who are using the bucket system, for instance, people who don't have decent accommodation, living in squalor, living in informal settlements, and it's something that government has been battling since the democratic dispensation came into being, to try and deliver services, including, of course, adequate and decent housing, something that speaks to human dignity, but also an issue of service delivery in terms of the creation of jobs, or an environment that's enabling for the creation of jobs, so people can be employed and people can make contributions to their family and see their family and personal lives increase. But also in terms of service delivery, I was quite impressed driving through here to De Aar. You would see that there are already solar farms that are established. In terms of who's on the billing, I am also now joined by Minister of Arts and Culture, Sports, Minister Zizi Kota. Minister Kota, in terms of the theme of this Human Rights Day, what would the President be delivering in terms of that messaging?
If you look at the theme just behind me on stage, you'll see that we're consolidating our achievement and gains over a period of time. That we have been able to restore human dignity to majority of South Africans who in the past, due to separate development in areas such as this one, were neglected. That's why you don't see much of the infrastructure, critical infrastructure. You're talking about water, you're talking about electricity, because it was not designed for them. And therefore, as you build and restore dignity to the majority of people, new challenges emerges. Because the infrastructure, critical as it was not built to accommodate the majority of black people. Whether you're talking about water, whether you're talking about electricity and so on. So the more you succeed, the more new challenges emerges. It's called maturation of a policy. So in areas such as here would have been neglected in the past. That's why you will not see much of the infrastructure here. And therefore it does not mean a failure. But it means when people protest, for example, it means government must move with speed, not to condemn protest, because it's their right to raise with their government their frustrations. And I think we must celebrate with, firstly, where we come from, but the challenges are quite different today. It's about provision of services. And therefore we've got to move with speed of a cheetah and a leopard to make sure that we deliver services to our people. In some areas, people are becoming impatient. Government must be impatient in terms of not delivering. So the local government, provincial government must move with speed, because these people have now appreciated that we have restored dignity in terms of human rights to the majority where in the past, there was a clear policy to undermine them, but now we're in a democratic dispensation. In order to restore and advance the human rights, we must make sure that we deliver provision of services to the people.
Having said that, Mr. Minister, over the years there's been sharp criticism to government to say, while the policies on paper are certainly world-class and some of the best in terms of trying to take care, particularly of the previously disadvantaged, there seems to be a disjuncture with holding people accountable. As Minister, you might call on the provision of services, perhaps sports, infrastructure and recreation, and yet you have service providers who then disappear after they are granted tenders. What would be done to try and ensure that people know that they can't take government for a ride?
No, there are people who take government for granted, and then there are people who take advantage. One of the things that I think the portfolio of the department itself has always been defined as dense and fun, and yet it has got a big contribution to make in terms of nation building and the economy of the country. For example, if you talk about the economy of sport, the economy of arts, the economy of culture. But within the sector itself, there's what is called commercial exploitation. When we're talking about different subsectors in the modeling and so people are being exploited. People work beyond 8 hours. And therefore, some of the bills that are before Parliament, the Performance Amendment Bill and the Copyright Bill, must come immediately to deal with an issue to bring an end to exploitation in the sector. The recreational facilities in some of these areas, in areas such as this one, when you talk about rural development, central to rural development must rural sport infrastructure. That rural sport infrastructure must help as part of economic development in rural areas. And I think one of these focus for me about issues of school sport must focus in areas such as DR, which were neglected by the past.
And we have to leave there for time. Thank you very much. Always a pleasure to speak to you. That was, of course, Minister of Sports, Arts and Culture, Sisi Kora, giving us an overview of exactly what we can expect in terms of the highlights and some of the keynotes that President Cyril Ramaphosa will deliver once the program officially gets underway here in DR. With that, it's back to you in the studio, Colin.